Hey everybody, welcome to Lakes Divide live stream on YouTube. I'm your host Adam Biggers. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow Great Lakes Divide at GL Divide, and that's GreatLakesDivide.com. And today we are going to, excuse me, my voice is a little raspy. Today we are going to talk about Michigan football, like we always do. I'm going to go ahead and tweet out the live link, and we'll get in the chat as soon as it's available. As soon as it shows up here. It was a slow start to the last one, so I'm anticipating it's going to be a slow start to this one. As soon as I... Here we go. So give me 1 second while I tweet this. Okay, we're all set. So Sean DeBoer is in there. Hey Sean, how you doing? Thanks for watching, guys. A couple updates last night. I'll start. I want to wait for some people to get in here, but if they're Mr. Johnson says, "What's up, Adam?" Hey, Mr. Johnson. If they're late, that's their fault, right? So last night, I didn't stick around for the Chris Evans interview. I just stayed for John Runyon Jr. and then Jim Harbaugh, and asked Harbaugh a couple Zach Gentry specific questions because I'm writing a feature on Zach. I actually spoke to his high school coach Charlie Dotson yesterday on the phone from El Dorado High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So watch out for that story. That'll be up some point later today on Great Lakes Divide. Again, it's GreatLakesDivide.com, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook at GL Divide, and follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. So I think you guys who've read me for a long time know that I love writing features, so I'm excited about this story, and I think it'll be a good one. Cody Peischer says Jules wants to know if the wide receivers are transferring because DPJ and Black are making the jump. I don't know, Cody, why they're transferring. I mean Donovan and Tariq have already been, pretty much A1 and A2, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know if it. I mean, I think people always knew that they were going to be the top two receivers. I think it's just Michigan. In regard to the transfer thing, I think it's hard to hang at Michigan, and I think B, that they're recruiting really well. So that kind of goes back to A. It's hard to hang at Michigan, and there's a lot of talented players. I mean, we've seen Kakoa Crawford transfer. Kakoa was a good wide receiver. We've seen Eddie McDoom transfer just recently. Yeah, I mean, we saw Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Transfer. Is a tight end. So as far as, do I think the wide receivers are transferring because Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tariq Black are making the jump? No, I just think it's development as a whole at the position group. So I mean, there's going to be guys who are leaving because naturally the name of the game is to bring in players, right, to compete for spots. So I think it's just a result of competition. So Alan Pinkney says, how huge is Zach? He's towering over everyone. He's real big. He's real big. What, 6'7", 6'8"? I've seen him at both. 263.2. We know that for a fact because he told us during availability the other night. And again, that video is on my YouTube channel, so check that out. And there's Ben Bredesen. There's a couple other ones. Devin Bush on there as well. So give those a look. Zach Gentry, there's a video of Jim Harbaugh from last night. I got the full 20 plus minutes. Kyle Prime. And Kyle, is it Prang or Prange? We still don't have clarification on this. He says, are all programs as closed off as Michigan? It seems like you guys have to pull teeth to get legit answers from the coaches. They are guarded. I'll say that. And it's I think a lot of it has to do with the question and who's asking it. So it is difficult. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it can be difficult. And I mean, I've had to stumble over words several times, and I've had to keep going back to same topic, with Harbaugh a couple times trying to get an answer. If you guys took me like it took me like 2 minutes. I think it was last year. Was it last year or 2016? It took me like 2 minutes to ask him a question about Eric Magnuson and the continuity of the offensive line, and that's when he's like, "Sorry, not every answer is going to be my best." So I think it depends on mood of the coach. It depends on the coach. It depends who's asking. It depends on the mood of the coach, and it depends on the angle. If it's Don Brown's going to just tell you what's on his mind right there. But I mean, most everybody else, based on my experience, kind of will give you some coach speak. Harbaugh will give you some good stuff if you ask him the right questions. I remember Jed Fish was always very forthcoming. I loved talking to Jed Fish, Mike Zordich as well. So, Alan Pinkney says, LMAO, did James Yoder show up? No, he sure didn't. We were saving him a spot. He was not there. Jeremy Turner says, "What's up, Adam? Happy to catch a live chat, making my workday go a lot better. Go Blue." Thanks for tuning in, Jeremy. Appreciate it. What do you do? Hopefully they don't mind you taking a little break. Hopefully your boss is a Michigan fan and he or she understands. Owen Schussler says, "We're going to need Grant Perry to step up, and you see Chuck Filiaga playing this year." I haven't heard a lot about Chuck lately. I mean, there was a little bit of talk about him in spring and summer, but I mean, right now, guys, the offensive lineman everyone knows about. I mean, Caesar's probably going to be there at center. It sounds like Ben Bredeson's got the left guard spot locked down. I want to say that Mike Onwenu, I don't know if he's necessarily safe locked down, but I think that Mike's probably the front runner at right guard. And it's like the right tackle spots. Is it going to be John Runyon Jr., Juwan Bushell-Beatty? Which side are they going to be on? Is it Juwan on the left? Is it John on the right? Jalen Mayfield's also in there competing. James Hudson's also in there competing. Jalen Mayfield's doing pretty well. Jim Harbaugh had a pretty good quote. I asked him about Jalen Mayfield and Aiden Hutchinson, both uh, true freshmen, both really good. And when is kind of like the time? Do you let them know that they're good? And, kind of one of those things. And Harbaugh said the longer it takes them to figure out that they're good, the better off in terms of a freshman. So the longer it takes a true freshman to understand that he's good, better off. And he mentioned something about one of his favorite quotes from Bo Schembechler was, "If someone tells you that you're good, kick them in the shins." Or kick him in the shins. Something like that. The video's on my, like I said, the video's on my YouTube, so check that out. Damian Kuhn says, "Finally, casual live one." They're all casual, aren't they? I try to be. Diddy8 says, "Don Brown is that uncle who will say something offensive at the family Christmas party and they'll just be like, 'Hey, that's Uncle Don.'" Maybe offensive, but I mean, Don Brown will just tell you like straight up. That's why I like him, and it really depends too. I think on how you ask him, but these guys respond well to the people who are genuinely interested and the people who are trying to write stories and find out information, not someone who's just shoving a mic in front of their face and asking them a standard question so that way they can get a quote for a story that they already have written and they just need to fill in the quote. These guys know that. Kyle, you still have to prong or praying, man. You gotta let me know. Prangy? Sound it out. Spell it out phonetically for me. He says, "I was watching the BTM bus tour at Ann Arbor yesterday, and they said one thing took away was the O-line won a lot of one-on-ones versus that D-line. That was encouraging." Yeah, and Rashawn Gary, I remember asking Rashawn Friday about the progress of the offensive line, and he said they're winning a lot more battles, and he doesn't want to win every rep. And when the O-line does lose one, they're real quick to want to run it back. And Harbaugh made a comment. He said a lot of the offensive linemen last year, what did he say? They were looking at their feet. I don't remember exactly what he said, but all in all, it does sound like the offense. There's going to be a lot of improvement on the offensive line, and I just wrote a column about this a couple days ago, and again, it's on GreatLakesDivide.com at GLDivide on Twitter and Facebook, and it's basically Michigan's offensive line seems like there's the makings of it. It's going to turn the corner, and I'm not saying that it was horrible and trash last year. It was inconsistent, and we know that the right side of the line was inconsistent. And I wrote about Ben Bredesen wasn't going to say, "Hey, yeah, the right side was bad." He said as a whole, if anybody gives up a sack, it's everybody's fault. It's not just, the right side. It's not the right tackle. It's not the right guard's fault. So Jimmy G says, "Hey Adam, it seems to be us versus Clemson for best D in the country. How do you think we stack up against them?" Favorably. Michigan's got a hell of a defense. David Long, Lavert Hill, those are going to be two of the best cover guys in the Big Ten, if not in the country. I mean, you're already looking at Khalid Hudson as the epitome of the Viper position. Jabril was a very good Viper. Khalid made Viper his own. So whoever plays Viper at Michigan has to live up to what Khalid Hudson's done, and that's going to be difficult. Cody wants to know, so all in all, how do I like Michigan's defense? I like Michigan's defense against anybody. Cody Peischer wants to know, who do you think are the four starting in the secondary? Corner set, but who else rotates at safety? And a lot of people aren't talking about Brandon Watson. Brandon Watson didn't disappear. He's still there. So Jalen Kelly Powell, I want to say that Jamarick Woods is somewhere in that mix, but I think Jalen Kelly Powell, Brad Hawkins, and Brad Watson, and Jordan Glasgow. Jordan's a backup Viper, but he's going to play some safety, so I think those are probably the guys that we'll see the most of. Muhammad Malik says, "What's your projections for the season if we have a good offensive line? Good offensive line, and let's stack in really good quarterback play, 10 wins. That's the ceiling, I think. This schedule is brutal. Unless we see just something take form, and this is an all-time Michigan team, but I think 10 wins is fair to forecast as a ceiling. 8, 9 is logical, and again, based on the schedule, guys. The schedule is brutal. It's number 11 ranked schedule in the country. You're opening at Notre Dame. You play 3 rivalry games this year. It's brutal. Let me see. Jeremy Turner says, property management, so no boss hovering over me. Said, I'm in Tampa. Everyone's talking about football, so I'm good. All right. Well, hey, Jeremy, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate it. Let me see. Did I miss? Alan Pickney says, on BTN, they said if all the pieces are together with this team, they could make a playoff run. True. Again, I mean, this is everything coming together, right? We're not looking at a Michigan team that's lacking talent on either side of the ball. I think the only questions are what type of quarterback play, what type of offensive line. Those are my 2 main questions. Owen Schuessler says, I thought Watson was gone now. No, Brandon's still there. Kyle praying. All right, thanks, Kyle. Jeremy Turner says, Adam, do you think Frosh, offensive lineman Jalen Mayfield, really has a chance to start? I mean, he's competing. Is he going to start? I mean, that's really hard, right? I mean, if you're a true freshman, is he a Mason Cole type of guy? I mean, you have to be that top 1% to start as a true freshman on the offensive line at Michigan. So, and that goes for a lot of schools. He's competing. He is competing. I don't think he's going to start just because it's such a long shot true freshman. But again, it's not impossible. I do think he has a legitimate chance to start though. But I wouldn't, if I had to put odds on it, or I would say they're against him probably 60-40. Who will be? Damian Kuhn wants to know who will be the third running back. I think it's True Wilson. True Wilson. Muhammad Malik says, "Oh, hold on. Let me see. I'm missing a couple here. And guys, if I miss your question, let me know, and I'll try to get back to it." Nate Wolverine says, "I would not be surprised if we go spread no huddle in the first series against Notre Dame." Robert Protzman says, I've seen people say that Michigan is a team with a low floor but a high ceiling, like they could go 8-5 or win the Big Ten. Do you agree?" That does seem fair to me because again, I mean, 8-5 with the schedule. I mean, 3 rivalry games right there, and let's just assume that they lose all 3 or 2 of those 3, and then I mean, you have Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, at Northwestern. It's a really hard schedule, and if you don't have good quarterback play, a good offensive line, I'm not so sure that this defense. I mean, we saw a really good defense last year, right? And they had to anchor the team. That was an 8-5 season, so it could be a repeat of last year if it's not much improved quarterback and offensive line play. But if it is as good as I think that it might be, I do believe that this offensive line is going to be better. Do I think that I honestly don't think Michigan's going to win the Big Ten, though. I think Penn State's really good. I think Michigan State's going to be good. Ohio State's going to be good. I think Wisconsin's going to be pretty good. Tatenda Zinyemba, hey Tatenda, says it's interesting to see that the bottom six ranked recruits in the 2016 class might all start for Michigan this year. Speaks to the coach's evaluation and development, and that 16 class is super important, right? I mean, last year I wrote about it a little bit. People were talking about it. I mean, and when you have Rashawn and Devin, I mean, those are basically the two linchpins. Alan Pinkney says, "Have I seen any practice?" No, we're not allowed to see practice. There are certain people who are connected with the program and they're seeing practice and they'll leak information and stuff. But anybody who goes and then writes and tells you, if they're at practice, they're not going to be putting their name on anything. They're not going to be saying, "Yeah, I'm Tom Smith and I'm at the practice," and because you're not supposed to do that. So someone's leaking out information. People know people and that sort of thing. But I mean, it's not media can't just go to practice. Not at Michigan. Demario Vaughn says, Chris Evans said they're opening the offense up some. So how much do you think Harbaugh is willing to change his offense? I think they're willing to do whatever is best for the quarterback, which is a stock. That's a stock answer. I'm sorry, I gave you a BS answer. I think they're willing to do whatever's best for. But really, I mean, whatever personnel wise, I mean, they're gonna have a lot of weapons, and I'm really excited about the tight end play. Sean McCune, Zach Gentry. I think those two are gonna be just critical for this offense. Critical. Tariq is gonna be the deep ball threat. Grant Perry is gonna figure in there too as a slot. Donovan Peoples-Jones. There are a lot of pieces in this offense that make you I mean, and they were there last year too. There was an explosive factor to Michigan's offense. Willem Spate got hurt, then had Roll John O'Corn, and then Brandon Peters got thrown into the fire. I mean, it's not. There are certain things that you can take away from last season and say, okay, they showed something there. I know for fans, I mean, you guys look at it, it's 8-5 and bowl game loss, and and it's a wash. But I do think there are things that you could take away from last season. And I mean, Tariq Black got injured too. I mean, there's a lot of things that went wrong for that team last year. Odie Tripod says, "Dude, you're so pessimistic. I thought I was coming here to get hyped about the season." Oh, Odie, I'm not a hype man, man. I'm not gonna cheer. I tell you what I think. He says, 11-1 best case scenario, 10-2 logical, 9-3 worst case. You're definitely on the high end of the of the optimism scale. I don't think I'm pessimistic. I'm realistic. 8-4, I think, is fair. 9-3, I think 9-3 is pretty fair. 10-2, that's high end. 11-1. So where do they get these 11 wins? They're gonna beat 2 out of 3 rivals. Are gonna beat Michigan State, Ohio State, and/or Notre Dame. They're gonna beat Penn State. They're gonna beat Wisconsin. It's a tough schedule. If you're just saying 11 wins right now, just if you believe that, then let me know why you believe that. I think I told you why I believe that that's not going to happen. Kyle says, "I'm excited about the possibility of Patterson, but I feel like that just sets up the quarterback, the QB room back a year, especially if he has one and done. And what does that say about Harbaugh's ability to develop quarterbacks?" Kyle, that's a good point. I mean, I brought this up about Brandon Peters. I mean, if Brandon doesn't pan out, but I mean, Dylan's real good. Joe Milton's in there. I don't think we're going to see Joe this year, but he throws the hardest ball, according to Zach Gentry. Dylan throws a real nice ball. I've been watching him warm up before games. So I think that in the level of competition, John Runyon Jr. said that it's the highest it's ever been since he's been there. I don't believe that Shea came here, job locked up, and boom, hey Shea, it's your job, just go out here and do it. I do think he's faced some competition, and I do think that he's being pushed. I do, I do think that he will be the starter, and I never said that I didn't believe that. I just said that don't be so quick to throw away Brandon Peters, and don't be so quick to assume that it's just Ben Shea and all Shea, and all the other quarterbacks are just there twiddling their thumbs and not giving this guy a run for his money, because they are. If you're a Michigan fan, you have to be excited about the future quarterback. Let me see. Muhammad Malik says, can 10 wins get us to Indy? Possibly, yeah, because everybody, the Big Ten, I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan, I think they're all like top 15, top 20 strength of schedule. The Big Ten's going to beat up on each other. So, I mean, if you come out of the Big Ten with 10 wins, I think that's Big Ten championship caliber. I think that's going to be good enough to get you into, college. Obviously, if you win the Big Ten championship game. But I was asked about this. It was an undefeated scenario. But let's say that we're seeing undefeated or both, one loss Michigan and Ohio State at the end of the season. I mean, there are scenarios. I think the Big Ten is going to be good enough this year to where there will be a discussion, the champion of the Big Ten and then the runner-up. I do think the Big Ten's going to be good enough this year where people will talk about two teams being in the playoff. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Sean DeBoer says, what are the chances they play multiple quarterbacks against Notre Dame? I don't know, Sean. I mean, I think the scenario is okay. I mean, let's say Shea starts, something happens, barring injury, of course. I mean, and he's just not very good. And then they throw in Brandon. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. If they need to, they will. How's that? Is that a good answer? I'm trying here. Diddy8 says, with no more McDoom, which speedster do you see handling our end rounds? That's a good question, Diddy8. Yeah, without Doom, it's like you essentially like erase a play. I mean, you're not erasing a play out of the playbook. There's next guy up. But yeah, Eddie, that was his specialty. Jeremy Turner says, Adam, I have to agree with you that don't count out Brandon Peters to start. He looks physically bigger per what I saw on BTN. Hopefully he can put it together. Michigan needs him to step up. Robert Protzman says, do you think Evans should be used more as a gadget player? And that following Diddy's question, maybe that's Chris doing the end arounds. Maybe Chris becomes that guy. Christian Turner is really fast too. Freshman running back. He is very fast. And I don't know, I mean, I've heard a little bit about him. I don't know exactly if he's going to get in there, but maybe he's a speedster. So, I mean, maybe he ends up being a guy. But yeah, it is an interesting question, especially with Eddie McDoom, that takes that certain element out of the offense. For Masterful, it says, long time no see, Adam. Hey, for Masterful, thanks for joining. We've been doing a few of these, so check out, if you haven't been in here, check out my new sites, GreatLakesDivide.com. Follow me on Twitter, at AdamBiggers81, and at GLDivide on Twitter and Facebook. Same stuff, same Michigan coverage, just different website. Jimmy G says, Adam, it seems like there's been no noise with running back recruiting. What's your take on that position for the next couple seasons? Jimmy, I don't really get too much into recruiting, right? I'm focusing on this. I do get into recruiting a little bit, but that's probably a question. That's probably a question you want to ask. Some of those recruiting guys. Like, I mean, Josh Newkirk's pretty good. Bryce Marich is pretty good. I'm trying to think of what. I mean, Sam Webb knows recruiting really well. I'm not really focused on recruiting right now. I'm focused on the season and getting this started. Someone had a comment about Michigan State that I wanted to. Big Bubble Blue says Sparty will be good if they can go to Tempe and win. If they lose that game, they go 7-5. Hashtag analysis from Big Bubble Blue. Always appreciated. Mr. Johnson says, at this point, Michigan should be beating Wisconsin with all the speed they have on the roster, just like OSU does. Or Masterful says, I do feel like we've strengthened some positions. I love McCray and his leadership, but we might have improved in that spot with a linebacker who can cover better, particularly versus running backs. And that's probably going to be Devin Gill, sounds like. Josh Ross is in there as well. Heard a little bit about Drew Singleton, Jordan Anthony. Those guys have been, but I think Devin Gill and I think, who did I just say? I can't remember. Josh Ross. Those are going to be the guys backing up Devin Gill most likely. And Devin played behind Mike last year anyway, so that's pretty, connect the dots on that one, right? For Masterful says, at Jimmy G, recruiting isn't Adam's department, really. Yeah, like, I mean, I have, connections to some guys I talk, but, I mean, I can't tell you, like, okay, yeah, this guy's just got an offer and he's going, like, I don't. that is not my expertise. I know enough about it, but to be able to rattle that off to you right now, I couldn't tell you. Sorry. Hose HO3. I see what you did there. HO3S NV. Elite 11 CEO said Peters is an NFL quarterback, and right in there was Shea. I mean, I've been saying this, guys, that it was just not the smartest thing to do to just be like, okay, it's automatically Shea Patterson, and Brandon Peters is not a factor. I don't believe that. I don't believe that has been true, and I don't believe that's true now. And I don't think it's coach speak to hear that there is a lot of competition there. Is it Shea's job? Is he the guy to beat? I mean, you could say that maybe, but is it just locked? Is it locked down and there's nobody else but Shea? And this is just they're going through formalities. This is a really important part of practice right now. They're really gonna start separating each other from each other. They've had 10 practices. Kyle says we all know Bama and Clemson will be in the playoff, but do you have a dark horse team? I think South Carolina is going to be a force this year. That's my dark horse. I think Michigan State, Kyle. I think Michigan State is going to be pretty good. You have to consider the Spartans as a legit Big Ten contender, and therefore by default a legit college football playoff contender, right? Because the Big Ten champion is going to go. I think you got to watch out for Michigan State. I like Penn State too. I like the Big Ten in general this year. Like I said, I think there's going to be four really strong teams in the Big Ten this year. Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, and I think and five because I think Wisconsin's going to be good, and I think Michigan's got the potential as well to be really good. But I mean, I look at those five teams right there, and who knows what we're going to get with Nebraska. I mean, it might take some time for Scott Frost to get stuff going in Nebraska, but I think Nebraska's going to end up being good. Because, I mean, they brought Frost back there essentially to do what, they want, what Michigan wants done with Harbaugh. So, to tend to, hi, Adam, you missed my last, okay, my bad, to tend to where they, okay, it says, if we're undefeated in the Big Ten championship, then lose to Wisconsin, would it be possible to get in? Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think there could be scenarios where we're talking about two Big Ten teams college football playoff. I think that the league will be strong enough this year for that to be a serious discussion. Alan Pinkney says, how did Karan get on the side of the Big Ten bus? I don't know. I didn't see that. I saw the bus parked out there yesterday. I didn't see Karan on the side of it. Canfield Racing, 15-0. Angelica Campos says, hi, Adam. Hi, Angelica. Angelina wants to know, do you expect any drop-off at Penn State without Barkley? No, I mean, Saquon's a great player. And, I mean, you don't just replace guys like that overnight or, the next game. But Miles Sanders is pretty good at Penn State. So, Trace McSorley is a really good quarterback. I don't think they're going to have too much to worry about. Rock City says, what's good, Adam? I made it. You did make it. We're going on 30 minutes, guys. Tatenda says, I think Shea Patterson is the difference. Adam, how many games does Michigan win last year if we had Shea? I think we're 10-11 win team if we had him. I think Michigan was a 10-win team if Wilton Spate was healthy last year. That's what I think. I think that was a 10-win team last year, talent-wise. I'm going to see on Twitter if there are any questions. Alex Bricker wants to know, how did Michigan get stuck with that dumbass joke Yoder? I'm sure you guys have seen some of the stuff, and I think you guys know there's the little... That's funny. That guy's taking a beating. When players call you out, that's when you really know, because it's not just... Because it's funny, they'll act, well, we don't read the stuff. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was talking about how he's reading stuff, about the quarterback position last night. He's like, well, they read the articles. They do. They say that they don't, but they do. And some of this just misinformation coming out, and it's not just misinformation. It's completely false, fabricated, and I can't even fathom how someone can pretend to take themselves seriously with it. It's an act. It's a pure act. And I mean, and I think that kind of stuff, I'm not I'm not going to talk about one person. I don't even like to say their name, but that kind of stuff makes it so much more difficult for the legitimate people that are out there, the ones who are actually trying to do work and get good information. And it's a shame because it's easy to fool people, I think, on Twitter. You know, I mean, you have a little bit of, and I talked about this before. You have a little bit of fancy production, and you have, you know, on YouTube and stuff, and some graphics, and uh, you know, and, and people are like, oh wow, this is like, I can tell you, and I will say this about Yoder and Chad. He is never there, guys, never there. And he's gone at Sam Webb and to try to discredit Sam Webb. If you follow Michigan and you read, Sam Webb's a great source. Sam does great work. How is he going to discredit Sam Webb? I mean, it's funny. So Tatenda says Adam, but thank you, Tatenda. Angelina Campos says Yoder's a liar and doesn't even give out correct information. That's true. Sure, what he says, but he's the self-proclaimed king of Michigan football, the Michigan insider. I know. I'm trying to get like him. Randy Randerson says, I wonder if division realignment is coming soon. Keep Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan in the same division and move Penn State. You'd have a rising Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Penn State. That's a great point, Randy. I would not doubt it. The balance has to be there in the East. You know, I mean, the Big Ten East is like what the SEC East was about 4 or 5 years, well, kind of like on a yearly basis. But I mean, Big Ten East and SEC East are going to be, I think, in current forms, are going to be the two of the strongest, not if not the two strongest divisions of college football. Frank Lucas says Wilton and O'Korn were terrible. Glad they're gone. Wilton was not terrible. Frank. Wilton Speight was not a terrible quarterback. Demario Vaughn says the Big Ten is only getting better. If Michigan can get through it, then we will just be stuck in football purgatory. Jeremy Turner says the king of Michigan football. Yes. 5-6 says Wilton was pretty good for Michigan by pretty much every measure. Yeah, I mean, he set records. He was like third in quarterback rating in 2016. I forgot. I had all these numbers because I felt like I was the Spate defender or apologist because I didn't understand why people crapped on this kid. All he did was like win games, complete passes, make plays. He was respected by his teammates. He was a good quarterback. I don't understand when people say that he was not a good quarterback. He was. I forgot his record as a starter because he did start to. I'd have to Google whatever I wrote. He had like a good. He was 13-3, I think, as a starter at Michigan. It's pretty good. Kyle Prang says people who say Wilton was a terrible quarterback have no football IQ. I can't wait till he kills it at UCLA. Owen Schussler says I think Penn State will take a drop off without Barkley in the return game and Jasecki in the red zone. I mean, yeah, Mike Jasecki is a great tight end. Tatenda Zinyemba, why would Penn State move to the West in terms of balance? Well, I mean, if they're not geographical, and I mean the legends and leaders stuff was kind of BS too. I mean, I don't know how. I didn't say they'd move to the West, but I think I was just commenting on what Randy said. But he said, yeah, I guess that would require Penn State to move to the West if you keep Michigan State, and Ohio State in the same division, East. Nate Wolverine wants to know who's the surprise wide receiver Harbaugh keeps talking about. That's the surprise. He won't tell us. I don't know. I think I might have a slight idea, but I'm not really sure. And remember, I mean, remember last year, Nate Schonley was kind of the surprise, right? He came out of nowhere. For Masterful says, I'm hearing good things about McCaffrey. Is he seriously in the hunt to be a backup? I'm sure he is. I mean, I'm getting mixed on quarterback stuff. It's not settled. I think that's pretty clear. Like I said, I do think Shea's a favorite. I don't think it's settled. It's not under lock and key. And then, yeah, Brandon and Dylan certainly battling for the backup. And Dylan was ahead of Brandon at one point in camp last year. Dstrin21 says, Ford Masterful says, I think Ambry is a surprise wide receiver. Yeah, he might be on to something. D-String21 says, Walton, I believe one of his best attributes was that he was a good closer. Typically, if they needed a score to tie or take the lead, he did well to take them down for. Yeah, and I mean, and what did he do that road game at Minnesota? I mean, that was just clutch, right? To Mauro or Jay, it was J.U. Chestnut. Beat Minnesota on the road. That was huge. Tatenda Zinyemba says we need to move Rutgers to the north so they can just play themselves. Alan Pickney voting for Oliver Martin. Nate Wolverine, what is your my slit idea? You mean slot? Owen Schusler says, I think people underrate the Michigan Notre Dame rivalry. I can't stand Notre Dame. That's a big rivalry. That was one of my favorite games to watch as a kid. Michigan Notre Dame, that was huge in the 90s. Rocket Ismail was one of my favorite players. I mean, those Michigan teams were really good. See Charles Woodson and Desmond Howard and Elvis Gerback and all those guys. I mean, that was college football. Those are the games that made me fall in love with college football. D-Stren21 says sometimes the D didn't hold up in the Florida State game and he didn't get time in the pocket. Fort Masterful says, will you make your Michigan versus Notre Dame predictions next week? We have to keep the tradition going. Yes, Fort Masterfuls, I will. And hey guys, if you're new to the podcast, do the weekly prediction. I have like a 90% success rate. So, just saying. It's going to be fun. The predictions. Are you going? Alan Pickney, are you attending any games this year? Yes, Alan. 5-6 says we were hearing about Jake McCurry as surprise wide receiver in the spring. For Masterful says lies. I'm not 90% accurate. You better go back and watch those episodes. I think I was pretty close to 90%. Let's call it 85. You said a strong 65%. No. That was better. You better tack on 20% to that. We'll go a strong 85%. Guys, we're going on 40 or 38 minutes here. We're going to close it down. Any questions? More questions. And again, I'll have a feature on Zach Gentry that'll be up at some point today. There's a Jim Harbaugh video on my YouTube channel. Over 1,000 subscribers now, like 1,020. So thanks, guys, and hope to keep seeing that number climb. D-String21 says, I want all wins, no losses. Every team in college football wants that. Oh, my slight idea, surprise wide receiver. I think it might be Ambry, too, actually. Frank Lucas says, can't wait to see the defense unleashed. Do you think it could be better than last year's? That's a loaded question, but they're so deep on the defensive line. And, I mean, Khalid Hudson, one of the most versatile defenders in the country. You have one of the best if not the best linebacker in the country with Devin Bush. You have two of the best defensive ends in the country with Rashawn Gary, Chase Winovich. You have David Long, one of the best cover men in the country. Lavert Hill's pretty good too. David Long's got these like incredible metrics as far as I want to read this real quick too. I've had this up, and this one's from Zach Shaw. Zach does really good work in looking up to this one's actually Lavert Hill. Looking up some of these advanced stats like the PFF, Pro Football Focus, and College Football Focus, all that stuff. Opponents tried to throw at Hill 3 times per game, and he scored more touchdowns than receivers he covered. So that's kind of a cool little stat that Zach dug up there. Any other questions, guys? Got time for a couple more. And guys, can you see the stream okay? Is it like in and out? I don't know. It looks like it's paused on my screen, so. Is the audio good? Kyle says, a coworker just walked by and seen me watching this and said, oh shit, Adam's on. Laughing my ass off. You're famous, man. Hey, I appreciate it, guys. I have a lot of fun with this. I like talking football with you guys. I like, sharing what I know, and I like dismissing bull crap. That's one of my favorite things to do. This season is sounding like the 1997 off season. Uh-oh, D Stridden 21, you're getting into some territory right there. Tatenda Zinyemba says, who do you think will start off offensive tackle, right or left? And I think it's Jawan or John. I think those are the two. And Jalen Mayfield's figuring in there, James Hudson, but I think it's Jawan or John. Jawan Bushel Beatty, John Runyon Jr. For Masterful says, stream is working live for me. Mr. Johnson says Nebraska Northwestern will beat someone they shouldn't this year. And Mr. Johnson, didn't you bring that up last time, the Northwestern game? If you guys aren't looking at Northwestern, that's going to be a tough game for Michigan. Owen Schuessler says, I love this because it keeps me from playing Fortnite. I've never played Fortnite in my life. Never. Sherwoody Forty says, you need a bell for every time someone asks about the tackles. Yes, we will get a bell for that. And guys, I want to do a whiteboard, like I said in the last one. We'll just fill in our own depth chart. How's that? Tatenda Zinyama says, the season sounded like the 1997 off season. Quote, and Tatenda's like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Nick M's in here. He said, will we see Joe Milton in the first 4 games? They like SMU, maybe Western. I don't know. Drake Harris's homecoming. I don't know. Possible. They seem pretty high on Joe Milton. I like Joe Milton too. I think Joe's gonna be a guy to. Hold on. Alan Pinkney says, any exciting opening games for the big Damian Kuhn? What freshman might play on the offensive side? Jalen Mayfield at tackle, maybe. Maybe Christian Turner as like a 4th running back or a gadget guy. I don't know. That's my speculation, but based on what I've heard about it, he's really quick. He's been impressive in practice so far. So Matt Crandon says, hey Adam, I made it, baby. Matt, you're at the tail end, man. We're on 42 minutes. I'm getting ready to sign off. I'm sorry. Mr. Johnson says if Nico comes along, DPJ in the slot may be best for him. Rock City, any word on Miles during camp? No, I haven't really heard anything about Miles. D Stridden 21 says the same things are being said now that were being said in 97. The schedule is the toughest and that they're good, but not good enough to outlast that schedule. All I'm saying is let's see. All right, well, in that light, I will agree with you. Matt Crandon says, yeah, man, some of us have to work. I'm sorry. Hey, you got to get like Jeremy Turner. Jeremy Turner is watching at work. No boss hovering over him. Adam, how many night games does Michigan have this season? Let me look at the schedule. I don't know that off the top of my head. Hold on. Some that are to be determined. We're gonna take a look at the schedule, guys, and we're gonna sign off. I want to go eat some lunch. Say Notre Dame game's a night game, right? 7:30. Here, I'll go right. Notre Dame 7:30 at Notre Dame. Noon. Week 2 against Western. Week 3, 3:30 against, and that's at home against SMU. To be determined. The Nebraska I think that Nebraska game might be a night game. That'd be a good candidate for a night game. Homecoming's noon. The Wisconsin game, that would be a good candidate for a night game too. Michigan State. I mean, I don't know. There's good. I don't know. I don't even want to throw out a number. Don't even want to throw out a number. But there are a lot of good candidates for night games, right? I mean, the Wisconsin game, the Penn State. I mean, the Penn State will probably be a night game. Possibly 4. So possible 4. I would think that's about. I would say that's fair. That could be tricky. Yeah, 3, 4, and it could be because night, not on the road. 2 of Michigan's nemesis the past couple years, right? Yep, 5, 6. I worry about the night game exactly. Penn State last year, Iowa the year before. Owen Schuessler says I don't want too many night games, just one at home to keep them special. All right, guys. Hey, it was a lot of fun today. I appreciate it. I'm gonna get going, and if I see my ADHD is gonna kick in. If I see another question, I'm gonna start talking about it. So I'm gonna look away and just plug the hell out of my website. until I go. So read GreatLakesDivide.com. Check out the feature on Zach Gentry. I'll have that up at GL Divide on Twitter and Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. We'll have another live stream, guys. It'll be availability Friday night, so I might do one Friday morning, if not Saturday morning. So, and then once the basically, I'll let you guys know when all the availabilities are. That thing. Follow me on Twitter. Can't tell you who it's going to be in the specific times, but I mean, other than that, at least you'll know the days. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, so it's not a big secret, right? And Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Cat's out of the bag. MIC book says peace, caught the tail on, good work. MIC, go to the tail. And this last one that we just did too, guys, that was like an hour and 20 minutes. That was really good too. So the chats are definitely catching up. And again, like up to 1,020 subscribers. So that's pretty good. Just started. It was at like 887 before Chicago, before Big Ten Media Days. Yes, because I did look. I didn't write it down, but I remember. So a lot of subscribers, and I'm glad people are coming back, and I'm happy to be back. So Damien Kuhn says great job. That's why we watch, man. Can't wait for September 1st. Yeah, we'll have a lot, and we're gonna go hard during Notre Dame week. All kinds of predictions. I'll try to get some guys from different sides. I'm working on getting a final note. I bumped into Khalid Hill yesterday as I was coming back from Mr. Spots. I really do eat Mr. Spots all the time, not just because they sponsored my podcast last year. Tim and Keith are awesome. Looking forward to doing something again at some point. But I still love Mr. Spots. So anyway, walk into Schembeckler from Mr. Spots, and I look over and I'm like, is that Khalid Hill? And Khalid saw me. He shook hands. How you doing? I always liked Khalid. He always gave me really, really good interviews. Good interview with everybody. But Khalid, I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes you feel like you just have like a good angle with a guy. And so I'm working on getting Khalid. He signed with the Seattle Seahawks, and working on getting him for a podcast. It won't be a live stream. It'll be an audio only podcast. Talk to a couple other guys too, some former Michigan players. So we're gonna try to do that and follow. And I know everybody's in here from Michigan. If you follow Michigan State, follow my partner Ryan Schuling at Ryan Schuling. He does a fantastic job covering Michigan State. He'll be on the Spartans, on Spartans football this year, and I'll be on Michigan football as usual. And I think we'll probably split basketball. In some sort of way, because I bounce around anyway between Michigan and Michigan State during basketball season. So anyway, guys, thanks for coming in. Thanks for watching. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. I do my best to try to read them all. If you have any more questions, again, it's at AdamBiggers81. I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good Tuesday.